Good morning, everyone. Hope all is well. Good morning. This is the first live session I'm doing at this hour, 8:30 in the morning, with a certain individual all the way from the US who is an inspiration to the Dawoodi Bora community. That's the community I belong to, and this is why I'm wearing the religious cap today to represent the community and to see how an entrepreneur like Farida Baksa Musa, who is a full time mother, homeschools her children, and um, was also a professor in geology, and she leverages her Instagram profile to generate income. And this is what we're going to be speaking about, that how does she do all of this stuff while also being a full-time mother. Good morning. Well, good evening.
Well,
However
good
you want.
night, actually.
How are you doing?
Good morning to you. I'm doing well. I've been
Good.
pretty excited and nervous.
There's nothing to be nervous about. I'm not going to eat you. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on discussing about, well, a lot of things actually. Like you're a full-time mother, you're a homeschooler to your kids, you were a professor in geology, and you also leverage your
And still
Instagram,
one.
and you're still a professor. You're also leveraging your Instagram profile to generate income. So we're going to be talking all about this today. Thank you so much for coming on, Farida.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, before we get the conversation going, if you can introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do. Obviously, I've spoken about it, but from your own words, please.
Hi, guys. I am Farida Baksimusa, and I am born and brought up in Mumbai, India. And I moved to United States of America for my further studies and after my marriage, like I'd say 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And yeah, I'm a geologist. I studied in India. I got my master's in geology. I was a professor in Mumbai University's in Xavier's College. Then I moved here. I did another master's in geology at University of California, San Diego. And we've been moving cities. We were in San Diego first, and then LA, and now in San Francisco Bay Area. And I am a professor. I'm a part-time professor, and I'm a high school Waldorf teacher. And I'm super inclined towards homeschooling. So I'm homeschooling my girls, and I run a business.
Wow, that's absolutely
I am a
amazing.
mother of two beautiful girls. Yeah.
um, so, all this that you're doing, I mean, I want to know how you manage it. So, before I get into it, what I wanted to know about is, did you always aspire to be what you are doing today? Or, when we grow up as kids, especially Asian backgrounds, you know, we get three choices. It's like doctor, lawyer, engineer. Did you have that peer pressure from your parents
Mhm.
that you got to do something like this, or you know, daughter, you got to do this, you got to be there because you got to make a career out of your life, all that kind of stuff, or no? Were you free to do whatever you wanted? There was no peer pressure, and you always aspired to be something like this. What was it that you grew up thinking?
Great question. In fact, I never had any pressure. My parents were, in fact, like worried because I was a very nerdy and I wanted to do it all and many things. So, I for to answer your question, no, I didn't have any pressure from my parents because I mean they didn't really. They knew I'd get somewhere, and I was very very determined and very passionate about studies and education. So yes, they not put any path forward for me. They asked me whatever I wanted to do,
Okay.
and they were happy with it. And the second part of the question, did I ever imagine I'd be an entrepreneur or be where I am right now? No, I never ever thought. In fact, no one in my family, like my dad, no one was ever in a business. So I never even thought that business was in me. So yeah, I guess luck
But
that
here you are
happened.
today.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you were doing geology.
Hmm.
Why geology, and what does that involve? And how did you get attracted towards that subject?
So I always knew that I wanted to go in science, but I also knew that I didn't want to go into medicine, and I wanted a very outdoor subject. And I was
Okay.
always intrigued by earthquakes and volcanoes, and geology wasn't very famous back then in India.
Yeah.
Mumbai University, I remember, had just 14 seats then.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and I
14
just,
seats
that's it. That was for masters, yes,
from
but
the whole population.
no, no, in just my city. So yeah,
Okay, got you.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, there were colleges elsewhere. But yeah, it was a very like if I were to talk about United States, every small kid knows about geology. But back then, like a few years ago in India, it wasn't that popular. So I was very intrigued by that subject. I always liked geography, and then I spoke to a counselor and I told them that, hey, I want to go in science, but I do not want to do medicine, but I want to do some. So this is what I told them, that I want to do such a field. And then they advised me that Xavier's College, Mumbai University, has this course. And that's what made me pursue geology.
And what was it that you
Yeah.
learned out of it? I mean, I know you mentioned earthquakes and volcanoes and all that sort of stuff, and geology is quite a bigger subject right now. I think
Of course.
since the tsunami happened in, I think, was it 2006, something like that, a lot of lives changed,
Yeah.
and the countries of the world started taking certain steps towards protecting mankind in a way where obviously you can't predict an earthquake, or you can't predict a volcano eruption, but there were
Mhm.
certain measures taken. I mean, do you think those measures that were taken and that are taken today in terms to save mankind, are they good enough, or could they be any better?
There's always research going on. I couldn't say if they're good enough or could be better. Of course, they'll be better in the future. We're learning so much and we're researching so much. So yes, it will definitely be better, but it's great now too. I love the whole research factor. One more important thing I wanted to go in geology was I wanted a subject where I don't have to just stay in the lab. I wanted to go outdoors, study from my books, and then just see it live in front of me. So when I'm studying about a rock formation, I go in the field and then I'm there. I'm seeing that rock formation. I'm kind of studying the history and researching. So I loved research and I loved just being outdoors and then getting all the information back to the lab. So that's something that really kept me going with the subject.
And you did that in India, and then you did that in the US. Today
Yes,
you're a professor in geology.
yes.
What does that entail? I mean, you mentioned that you work in the lab, or you bring your research back to the lab. What does it involve, being a professor and being in that field?
So when I was a student, there was more lab work and research. So I was actually studying the Earth's magnetic field. I
Okay.
did my thesis on paleomagnetism. That's the Earth's magnetic field that protects us from the harmful rays of the sun, to make it sound simple. And then we did a lot of research from rocks in Hawaii. So that was lab and research work back when I was getting my master's. I soon got a job as a professor, and there I don't do research. I just go for a lecture, give my lecture. We're doing lab work, so teach them labs, do lectures, and then take them for field trips. So that's like, I'd say it's a 2 month course in a community college, then there'll be 2 or 3 field trips.
Wow. So you are
So yeah,
a professor and you homeschool your children. So a full-time teacher, I guess.
yes, and that's actually, I'm sure you'll come to that question, so I'll wait for that. Why
Yeah.
homeschool? So,
Yeah.
yeah, we come to that.
Super.
But yeah, I love learning and I love teaching and education. So,
So this is where I wanted to go to. Why homeschooling? Why don't you send your children to a private school? I mean, there's so many private schools in the US, quite big ones,
yes.
amazing ones. So why did you choose to homeschool your children? I mean, in
So
today's
I've
day and age,
always
in
been,
the last 3 months, I mean, it's perfect. That would have come in
yeah,
so handy. But before that, why did you decide to go ahead and do this?
You know what? I'll just break a stereotype right now that homeschooling is nothing what it looks like right now during COVID, because believe me, we're not at home when we're homeschooling. We're outside, we're outdoors with museums, libraries. So, yes, a little bit, yeah, we're some bit, like a little bit at home, but not most of the time. So, yes, why homeschooling? Like I said, I was very inclined towards education from the beginning. Of course, I'm a professor. Also, because I'm a professor and I'm a high school teacher, I teach at a private school here, Waldorf
Yeah,
High School. It's one of the best schools. It's I love the Waldorf education, and so I've seen both sides. Being a teacher, and I would say, um, even being a private school teacher, I still cannot give that one-on-one attention to my students. I mean, I try, of course, but I feel that one-on-one during the initial years is so important. I mean, that's what works for us, and
okay,
that was one of the reasons that, making education fun. I want my kids to use all their imaginations, and I don't want them to be restricted to a classroom.
of
And
course.
just being outdoors, just learning, and just being. I mean, that's what I felt what optimal learning looked like for my family.
Am I right in
Um,
saying that you're actually teaching life to your kids than schooling to your kids?
Yes, and that is, I'm again not saying that any school system is, it's what works for a family. I'm a teacher myself, and that's why I was more inclined that, hey, this is what it looks like in school. It's amazing. Yes, it's got its pros and cons, both, but I was definitely excited. I felt I was inclined. I had that in me, so I wanted to try it. So I'm trying it. Let's see how far I go.
And you
Uh,
mentioned you've got two
yeah.
daughters. So how do you
Mhm.
balance that equation between giving that one-to-one attention to either of them? I mean, do you do the homeschooling together, or it's at a separate time, a separate timetable for each one of them?
Actually, my younger one is she's just 2 years old right now,
Okay,
so I'm not doing
okay,
much
got
with
you.
her. But the plan is that I would make them study together.
Okay,
There's a 2 year age gap between them,
okay,
but usually homeschool parents, they teach the siblings together. And
okay.
then, so for example, you're doing science, and if the older kid needs more detail, and then you do a separate exercise with them, and you do basics with the younger one. So it's more together. And I forgot to answer one of your questions, which was you mentioned that being in the US, there's so many private schools, but private schools are not affordable by everyone. It
Of course.
is very expensive to send your kids to a private school, and I
I
just
mean,
wasn't
even a
comfortable.
public school, for example. I mean, the public school standards, I was just talking to my kids yesterday,
Mhm.
and I was comparing the private schools that we have in Pakistan, in
Mhm.
Karachi,
Yeah.
to the public schools that we have in the UK. The
Mhm.
level of education is near enough the same, but the
Yes,
private schools out here are to another level. I mean, the things that they make kids do,
definitely.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they teach them life, but
Mhm.
the teachings of a private school are much more advanced than a teaching of a public school. So I think, the balance is not right in there, but still kids are going to either of them and they are thriving. So I don't know. I mean, but
Right. Kids are
your
thriving
decision
everywhere.
to make
It's
three
a
two
family's decision.
I mean, your decision to make two kids study at home. I mean, obviously your
It's a
younger one
big
is really young,
responsibility.
but it's a
Mhm.
huge responsibility,
It is
you know,
definitely.
especially being a full-time mother. I mean, I see my wife at home, and
Mhm.
there are certain Islamic parts that you have to teach your kids, and she's so busy doing that
Of
that if
course.
I were to
Of
put
course, that takes a lot
homeschooling
of
into
time.
that, you know,
But for us, it's blended, it's just with our school. So I don't have to remove that extra time. So for me, I like when mothers tell me that, wow, how do you homeschool? For me, I salute mothers who work a full-time job. Then when their kids come back from school, they sit with their homework assignments, sit with their Islamic studies. I mean, they do so much more. For me,
of course.
school, of course, it's a responsibility. I need to be on top of it, and I have a timetable. But we are done by 12. We are done, like I'd say for my kids, we're done by 11, and we have the
Wow.
entire day to Yeah, I mean, it's fast, right? Come on, it's one-on-one. So it would
Absolutely.
be much faster.
Do they some do they
Yeah.
sometimes do they some does your daughter give you the feeling that she's a bit bored? Do you get that?
Luckily, never. They're just so busy playing with each other, and they're very self-occupied. So if
Okay.
I'm doing my thing, they know I'm working, and then they'll keep themselves busy. Um, yeah.
Super.
Yeah, but I forgot one important point about homeschooling since you asked me
Yep.
why. And since I was always the student who always wanted to come first, I feel that I've always studied for grades, and I don't know how much I've learned. Of course, my education has brought me where I am, so I wouldn't say that it's not helped me, but it was definitely more towards grades. And I don't want that, at least not in the initial stages of my daughter's lives. I want them to just study because they love the subject, they enjoy the subject, they're
Yep.
just intrigued by things. And yeah, so that's also
And
one reason.
how long do you plan on how long do you plan on carrying on doing this? I mean, till what
Well,
age? I mean, college, university. I mean,
no,
how
no,
do
no.
you?
Ideally, it would be till middle school. So in high school,
Okay.
kids go to school so that they're giving the SATs and all the entrance exams with their
Yep.
and they can. I mean, ideally, that's what I would love to do. But like I
Yep.
said, I would take it one day or maybe 1 month or 1 year at a time. Let's see how it goes.
That's absolutely amazing. But thank you so much for sharing all that.
Of
Now,
course.
the entrepreneur mother. So you are the professor, you are a teacher to your kids. Now it's all about the entrepreneurship. And I commend you for what you're doing in terms of the following that you have on Instagram. I mean, I haven't seen a Dawoodi Bora so massively followed on Instagram. And this is what we are going to talk about right now. How did you get there? And how do you leverage that profile in terms of generating income? And how can anyone do it?
Thank you so much. I when I started in 2016. I just wanted to make a difference. I was just not very happy that the clothes that I wear wasn't available on Amazon, wasn't available by just clicking and getting it. So I started a brand named DIY Ridas because I always DIY stuff here. So I
Yep.
started that brand, and the way I marketed my brand, I didn't know anything. 1 week before I started, I came on Instagram. I didn't know anything about Instagram. Luckily, I had a friend, Zetanuta, who gave me a shout out. How sweet of her! And I woke up to like 50 to 60 followers, and I was like, wow, that is the biggest thing that could ever happen to me because someone
Wow.
believed in my brand.
Yep.
And 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 I don't know what struck me. I mean, maybe the creative me just thought that that I wanted to be my own mannequin, and I wanted to be my own model for my brand.
Yep.
Let's say, not
Yep.
the right
Yep.
word, but so I just kind of posted. I always love subtle marketing, so I just said that this is empowering me, and this is what I wear if I go wherever I go here in LA. I was based in LA then, and I then subtly told that, hey, shop this from my store. And
Okay.
then a year later, I did a giveaway, and uh, fast forwarding 2 years, I didn't see myself growing to a Rida brand. I was never creative in designing. I just
Got you.
wanted to put things together. I wanted a platform for people to use. So I feel okay, where do I see myself 5 years down the line? And I definitely didn't see myself in that. So I knew that I had to rebrand. And another thing was I couldn't manage inventory. I was so bad at it that I'm like, this is not for me. But definitely, I want to use what I've got so far, leverage that fact that people a teeny bit look up to me and really like my content.
Of course.
And that's when I thought that I need to now brainstorm about a service brand where I will use my creative writing, photography, and deal with brands where I don't have to have an inventory
Yep.
and it just be my service. So, and that gave birth to Brings Joy. I was contemplating between my name for the brand and brings joy. But then I finally decided brings joy because I wanted my brand to be a very positive feel brand where
Of course.
any person I interact with or deal with or collaborate, I am positive that that would bring someone joy. So that's the purpose. I started brings joy, and I never did it for the following. I'm sure someone would think I'm kind
I
of
mean,
no.
it's not about the following. It's about the fact that you picked up something and you grew on it. You know,
Yeah,
that's what counts. And as an entrepreneur myself,
yes,
this is why I said I commend you for what you've done to where you are today. I mean, in 4 years' time, you've achieved nearly 50,000 followers. That is super.
yeah.
I've tried possibly around the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, there's a lot of things out there right now that, oh, pay us this much and we'll give you these many followers and these many likes on your stories and all that kind of stuff. So I fell prey to that, and I had my Instagram account. There was at one point I had 6,000 followers on one of my profiles, and for some odd reason it got shut.
Yeah.
So now today that you have these followers,
Mm-hmm.
what is it can someone do, and how can they do it to leverage that profile, leverage their social media platform to
Mm-hmm.
generate income? And this is very important because you're a housewife, you're a mother, you're a teacher, you're a professor, plus you're an entrepreneur. Doing these five things together, I mean, hats off. How can anyone do this?
I just feel that every woman, every we're just good at multitasking, I'd say. And I sometimes call myself, this would be weird to share it here, but I do call myself jack of all, master of none. But no, let me answer your question. That sorry, did I forget your question? Um,
No, I mean, I was saying that how can anyone do that using social media platform?
yes. So for how do I leverage my platform, my followers? I'll give you a simple example. Actually, recently, actually only today, I'm looking for curriculums to teach my daughters for homeschool next
Yep.
year,
Yep.
and I emailed. I sometimes email brands that, hey, in exchange of your curriculum, I would like this is I'm talking about really, really, really good brands where
Okay.
I wouldn't expect. Usually, brands pay me for collaborations, but this is like I would try my luck with brands, and then they would agree. They'd say, "Hey, we'd give you our books, our curriculums. I just do this for homeschooling,
Yep.
because there's just so much resources and it's expensive."
Of course.
So and they agree. They would agree because I have that following, I have that engagement with my, and then I tell them what I'm going to give them in return, and so that's where I use my following to leverage. Then, of course, paid partnerships. Brands brands email me, and then I ask them what they're looking for, and or what their product service is about, and if I like it, I think it'll go with my marketing style. um, we collaborate, they send me their
So
products, and then
you don't say yes to everyone. It's like certain people,
no,
certain brands that you think that would enhance your profile and enhance theirs as well. This is
yes,
where you go and choose them and take them on board and do that
yes,
collaboration. And
yes.
can this collaboration be done by anyone in terms of, I mean, if they don't have a huge following, for example, they don't have 50,000 or even 10,000 followers, but they have the right mindset, any number of followers can do this collaboration and bring that, use their platform to generate that income?
You're talking about collaborating with me or anyone collaborating with
Anyone,
anyone
as in
else?
the whole general public out here.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course. I mean, even if they do not have, they have something to give to another brand and say that, hey, could you please talk about it? And then you would in return. So I'm sure they could talk it together. Maybe,
So it's pretty
uh,
easy to do that
maybe
and collaborate with any brand
I
out
mean,
there.
it's not, I wouldn't say easy. You'd have to message like I mess. I message like 50 people a day, and so you'd have to, of course,
You have to
message
put
them,
in the
and no
hard
one
work,
would agree. And
of course.
of course, yeah. Mhm.
So we've spoken about all this stuff that you mentioned,
Mhm.
homeschooling, geology, your career, your entrepreneur
Mhm.
mindset that you have. What's next in the Farida Baksa Musa world?
I wish I knew. No one would know that, right? I have hired recently, so I definitely see myself growing as a brand. Uh, my vision is that, inshallah, 5 years down the line, I would not be working other small jobs and just homeschooling my girls and having my business sustaining. I'm doing well enough that I don't have to do the other jobs. So that is my idea. That's why I've hired. I have a digital consultant now, so I'm so thankful for
Based in
that.
the
And I
US
definitely
or
see.
based in India somewhere?
I mean, doesn't matter. I mean, she's there.
All
uh,
right,
she's there
super.
with me all the time. I've
Absolutely.
not
That's
revealed her
that
yet,
it's
but
it's
soon.
good to know because a lot people like myself also, we're always looking for someone to, I mean, I have my digital company as well, but there, different ideas can cross different mindsets, and that's how you can approach someone and get that on board,
Definitely.
put those ideas together
Yes.
and generate great content, I guess.
That actually is so correct because I remember I was working for a company as their digital consultant, and they wanted someone. I mean, they could have found a person who could manage their page anywhere in the world, but their criteria was that that person has to be in the vicinity. So when they did an
Okay.
event, they wanted me to cover it. So
Okay.
it just depends what you're looking for.
Got you.
Yeah, for me, it was more the trust that I had to have. So luckily, I knew her very well. So it worked out. And I knew that I wanted someone to think other than what
The
I am
way you're
thinking.
thinking.
Yes and no. Yes, because yes, we had to, would have same visions, but
Yeah.
also thinking a little different so that I have more creativity going on and more content.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, knowing
Thank you.
about what you do, how you do it, letting the world know about it. Before you go, it's okay, so it's fine. Before you go, I do this with all my guests that come on board, and I asked them to share a positive advice, something positive. We're living in a world out here with a lot of negative sentiment around us,
Mhm.
with lockdown just there, COVID, all that kind of stuff that's going around us. What sort of positive advice would you like to give to the public listening right now and who may listen at a later stage so that they can take that on board and move forward in life?
Right now, since we're on Instagram, I talk about social media. Guys, what you see on social media, edited, it's the best version of someone's life. So please do not compare your lives to anyone's lives on Instagram. I mean, we're really working hard. I'm telling you, I would take hundreds of pictures to get that one picture, and
You are
there's so
super
many
right.
things involved.
You are so right.
So yes, yeah. So now that you are so much more on social media, learn something, get inspired, and then feel confident about yourself that you could do that or maybe do better. Everyone's unique and everyone comes with their own uniqueness. So, yes, I mean, I would just like to end with that you are you, you're wonderful, and do not compare your
Get
lives
up
to
and live the moment.
yes.
Super. Thank you so much, Farida. Again,
Thank you so much,
it's
Elizabeth.
such a pleasure to, I mean, I can't say how proud I am today for an individual, a woman within the Dawoodi Bora community, doing so good for herself on each and every single platform. It's commendable, totally.
Okay, I shall cry after the live.
See you soon.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Take care. Bye.
take care. Bye bye.
So that was Farida Baksamusa all the way from California. Just wow. Wow. Super wow. I mean, who says that women don't have power? This is power. This is superpower. I mean, teaching your kids, teaching kids at school, entrepreneur, business mindset, to grow your profile, to leverage social media, to generate income. I mean, Farida, you're an inspiration to women in our community, in the Dawoodi Bora community, and the rest of the world. Guys, do check her out, check her profile out. You're looking for collaboration, you want a brand shout out, do get in touch with her. I'm sure it will be super huge for you guys. But thank you to Farida. Thank you to all the viewers that tuned in. It's a pleasure to have you on here. I hope you had great positive knowledge sent out to you. This is my first live session that I've done over the 100 or 110 live sessions that I've done so far at 8:30 in the morning. And each and every second of that was power, superpower. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.